Hi, I'm Tim from Mianne Benchwork. Do you have trains and boxes? Always wanted to have a layout? Tired of sawhorses with a piece of plywood on it? In this box, I have the solution to your problem. There's a complete 4x8 benchwork kit. It's an expandable system. It's a customizable system. Extra parts are available if you need it. And it'll only take you a couple of hours to put it together. It comes to you via UPS or FedEx ground, right to your door. This box weighs about 42 pounds. It's easy enough to carry down into your basement, up into your train room, wherever it is in your home. And all you'll need is hand tools. There's no power tools necessary whatsoever. So let's get started. We'll open the box and see what we've got inside. We get everything out of the box. This is the entire benchwork, a 4x8 benchwork right here. You've got 8 legs. We've got 9 of our 4-foot I-beam. And we have 12 of our 2-foot I-beams. In addition to that, we have a small box that contains all of the hardware, the assembly instructions, and a color-coded blueprint. Makes it easy to put together. It's easy to follow along. I'd like to take a couple of minutes and talk about the materials we use and why we use them. We've all been to the lumber yard trying to find a couple of straight pieces of lumber for a small project at home. It's not always very easy. You get them home, they're not as straight as they were in the store. It can be a very frustrating experience. So what we've done is we've made I-beams. It's a great way to equalize everything. We all know that wood moves. All wood moves seasonally, humidity, whatever. This is a hardwood frame with an MDF core, medium density fiberboard. It's a wood product. It does move. But the nice thing is, because it doesn't have a grain, it moves all the same. So every I-beam moves the same amount in the same directions equally, which means when you build your table, it's going to be stable regardless of whether it's hot and humid, cold and dry, your basement changes seasonally. You'll be able to run your trains year round. It's going to be a much more enjoyable experience and more fun in the hobby. The legs are solid poplar. No softwood. Poplar is a nice, naturally fast-growing tree. Grows straight. Very stable wood. So these are solid 2-inch poplar legs. It's got the unique Mianne multi-directional top on it. All the holes are pre-drilled. Every leg has a leveler built in. And all you've got to do is assemble this. So let's move on to the assembly stage and get this thing put together. Okay, now we're going to get started on this construction. First thing we'll do is we'll open up the box of hardware, as I mentioned earlier. Open this box up, you're going to find inside, first thing is a little booklet, general assembly instructions. This is for all Mianne Benchwork kits. Everyone gets one of these. Just read through that. It's only a few pages, simple reading. And you'll also get a couple of pages, assembly plans. The first page is the leg set assembly, which is the first process we'll do. And then there's an overview page that shows the entire assembly, also color-coded, with a parts list showing you the number of pieces you need for each. So when you open the box, you want to make sure that what you've got in the box matches what it calls for on the sheet. Make sure that you've got everything. Also inside the box, you're going to find various hardware. We've got adapter blocks, we have double adapter blocks, top attachment hardware, leg levelers, cams, dowels, and pins. All these things we'll go through as we use them, as they're required, explain how they're used. To begin with, the first thing you're going to want to do is take all of your legs and put the leveler in them. To put the leveler in, you're going to need one of the 4 tools we need. This is all we need for tools. No electric, no power tools. We're going to use a number 3 Phillips screwdriver, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, a pair of pliers. These are a spring-loaded slip joint that I happen to like, but you can use lineman's pliers, needle nose, whatever pliers you've got hanging around will work fine. And a small hammer or mallet. This is a plastic rubber mallet that is handy and will do a good job here. And all that's for is to install the levelers. So we begin by putting a leveler in. There's a leveler nut, which was in the box. You just fit it into the hole, tap it in. That's it. Take the leveler leg itself, thread that in, and thread it all the way in. You want to make sure that all of the levelers are fully retracted into the leg as far as they will go to begin with. You do that to all 8 legs. The I-beams, you're going to get your cams, the bag of cams. Take the cams out. And you'll notice when you look at the cam, there's a small arrow cast into the cam. Cam goes into the hole on the face of the I-beam. And you want to make sure that that arrow is pointing to the end. That is the open position that allows it to lock to the leg. So you can adjust that with a screwdriver. You can see how easily that went in. All the holes are properly drilled, located right, proper depth. It's very simple to put together. So after you've got all of your I-beams with the cams in it, all of your level is in the legs, you're ready to start the actual assembly. We'll begin with the leg sets. All right, now we're ready to start assembling the benchwork. We start by assembling the leg sets. So you want to get the page that shows the leg sets. And you'll notice in this page, it shows we're going to do 2 identical leg sets for this particular kit. And each of them requires 4 legs, 4 of the 2-foot I-beams, and 2 of the 4-foot I-beams. Indicated by, the 4-foot are indicated by the pink, and the 2-footers are indicated in the yellow on the drawing. Now we've already prepared our legs by putting in all of our levelers. All of the I-beams have installed the cams with the arrow pointing to the end in the open position. So now we're going to start putting the dowels in so we can lock the cams to the legs. The dowels go in the center hole at the top and the bottom of the leg for this kit. And that just screws in with the number 3 Phillips screwdriver, and you just screw it in until it stops. You can feel it. It hits a little bit of a shoulder and it stops. You don't have to over tighten it. You don't want to over tighten it. Just put it in until it stops. That puts it at the proper depth for the cam, so when you tighten the cam, everything is correct. You don't even have to be looking at this as you're doing it. I do recommend using the number 3. It seems to fit the top of the dowel a little bit better than the number 2 does. Even though it looks like it's a little small, it's not. After you get the dowels in, you just got to place the pins in. But before we do that, we're going to get 2 of these 2-foot I-beams. I've already prepared the other leg here with the dowels and pins. Put that on. Half a turn of the cam, and the I-beam and the leg are locked together. Now again, you don't want to over tighten. You just go until it's locked. You don't really have to torque on that thing. You could break the cam. You could start pulling it out of the wood. It's not necessary to over torque that thing. If the time comes where you need to take this apart, it's a simple matter of just releasing. It's going to come right back apart again. So you're going to put an I-beam, a 2-foot I-beam, top and bottom. And now you're going to attach the other leg to complete this leg set. I like to put the short pins now into the I-beam so that when I flip this over to mount it, the pins don't drop out, and then I got to go chasing them all over the train room. So I'll place those in the end of the I-beam, top and bottom holes. I got my dowel already screwed in. I'll line that up, put that together, half a turn, again, don't over tighten. And there's our first portion of the leg set put together. I'll be back to finish assembling that in just a moment. All right, continuing with the leg set assembly, I've now prepared this to accept the 4-foot I-beams to complete this leg set. We've got our screw-in dowels, our pins. The nice thing about this is this could be a lot of fun to be doing this with your grandchildren or children. This is not something that requires strength or anything. It's a great family activity. It's actually fun building benchwork when you use the Mianne system. So get everybody involved. Kids will surely enjoy it if they know they helped build the benchwork right from the start for the railroad. So now we got to add the other one to the top. I'm going to remove the bench and we'll start working from the floor and get this final assembly put together. Be right back. Now that we have the table out of the way and place this on the floor, we can complete the assembly of this 2x4 leg set end section. There's going to be a couple of additional pieces we need. First will be another 2-foot leg set with 2 legs and 2-foot I-beams. I prepared that, and an additional 4-foot I-beam. So what you want to do is stand this up, supporting it with the 4-foot I-beam. Take your additional 2-foot section. You're going to line up the I-beam with the leg. Slide those together. You'll get your number 3 Phillips screwdriver. Again, making sure that your arrow is pointing to the end of the I-beam so you can lock this properly. Tighten that up. Same with the top. The last step to completing this 2x4 section will be adding the front 4-foot I-beam. I've already got my screw-in dowels and short pins added, so all I've got to do is line this up, tighten the cams. You can see this is so simple a child can do it, which I encourage you to do. Involve the children. Get them to put this together, help you with this. And that completes our 2x4 leg set and section. We'll position this for the end of our 4x8 table. We'll assemble another one of these, we'll place it over here, and then we'll connect them in the next step. Now that we have our 2x4 leg set assemblies completed, we're ready to assemble the rest of the 4x8 frame. And all that's required is to place the 2 leg sets about 4 feet apart, as I've done here, and connect them with 2 additional 4-foot I-beams. I've already prepared the connections with the screw-in dowels and our short pins. So all we have to do now is add these 2 4-foot I-beams. Again, making sure that your arrow is pointing to the end of the I-beam in the open position so that you can connect these. Slide them together. Tighten again with the number 3 Phillips screwdriver to lock them together. We'll add one more of these 4-foot I-beams to the back of the frame. Tighten these with our number 3 screwdriver. And that completes our 4x8 frame, at least as far as the exterior goes. And all that's left to do now is to add our interior cross members and support pieces, and this benchwork will be completed. The next step is going to require a new type of hardware. We call our adapter block assembly and our double adapter block assemblies, and we use these small wood blocks, and that's our next step. We'll get to that now. Adapter block assembly. It includes a wood block with 3 holes drilled in it, what we call a shoulder dowel, and 2 long pins, which are approximately twice as long as the short pins that we use connecting the I-beams to the legs. You begin by inserting the long pin into the top and bottom holes in the I-beam. You may need a pair of pliers to do this. You want to insert them so that about 1 1/4 inches or so is sticking out. It's not anything you have to measure or anything. You just want it to stick out a little. You take the wood block with the 2 holes, the 3 holes rather, the 2 top and bottom holes, line those up with the pin, and just slide that over into place. Now you might want to push the pin out, and this is what you want to end up with the block there, the 2 pins protruding, and that's how the I-beam is going to connect to this. Now, again, making sure that your arrow is pointing to the end of the I-beam. You're going to take your 2-foot I-beam, put it over those 2 pins, and push that in place. The shoulder dowel, which is this one here, has a little capped end on it, goes through the center hole on the back side of the I-beam. And now you complete the assembly the same way you do everything else. Turn the cam, and you'll notice this pull together as I tighten that, and that is now locked together. The next step is going to be to do what we call a double adapter. It's going to use 2 of these wood blocks and a dowel that looks a little bit different than the capped one we just had, or shoulder dowel as we call it. This one is a double-ended dowel, and it's going to allow for an I-beam to come from each side of an I-beam and connect together. We'll do that next. Now that we have this 2-foot centerpiece attached with the adapter block on the outside edge, we can move it to the interior a little bit more. And at this point, we've got to add a 4-foot I-beam in this direction here, across to the other leg set out of the picture. So what I've done is I've added the block and the 2 pins, like I did on the other side, and I'm going to insert the double-ended dowel. This has a a catch on either end that a cam can grab. So one cam from this side and the cam on the existing I-beam are going to both catch on this. This is probably the trickiest thing there is to do in all of this benchwork assembly. So we're going to line this up and kind of push it in, slide that through. You just push it in as far as it will go. And this is where you've got to have a little bit of touch here. You've got to put the screwdriver in, and you got to start to turn it to lock. And you just want to pull on until you feel it locked. You don't want it to go, right now it's not locked. So I'm going to put it back in, turn it a little more. Now it's locked. That's the position I want to be in. I don't want to tighten it any further than that because I need to leave enough for the other side to tighten as well. The next step is going to be to get the 4-foot I-beam ready. Now that we've got this double-ended dowel attached in just enough so that it's holding on, we're going to add the 4-foot center I-beam. The first thing we do is we're going to take that 4-foot center I-beam we have right here, and we're going to insert 2 short pins into the end that's being connected. Just like we did when we assembled the leg sets. We're going to get a wood block with the 3 holes. And we're going to slide that through that double-ended dowel and over the 2 pins that are now protruding. Like that. Now you'll notice that the pin no longer protrudes from the block. That's to allow the short pin that we just installed into the 4-foot I-beam to go into that space. So you got to take the other end of the 4-foot I-beam, which is out of picture at the moment, and slide that onto a block that's already on the connecting I-beam. And you're just going to push this apart, force it apart slowly, and then let it come back together. Now you got to pull it together as tight as you can by hand. Then get your screwdriver. The next step is to tighten this side that you've just attached. And you're going to only tighten that probably about 90 degrees, and you'll be able to feel that start to pull in. And once that does, you can then complete the assembly on the other side, which will lock everything together, come back, and just make sure that it's all the way. And now your double adapter assembly is complete. We have 2 more double adapter assemblies to put together and a couple more of the single adapters, and this benchwork will be complete. And the last step that we do before putting our top on and beginning to start laying our track is to add the top attachment clips. And this is to allow you to attach your plywood from below. In the event you've got to take it apart, you won't have then covered up your screws with scenery material, track, etc. You'll be able to go underneath the layout with as great access as we saw earlier in the video, and just remove the screws. The layout will then come off of the benchwork. The benchwork could then be disassembled if necessary. So the top attachment clip is this small plastic corner brace, and it's got slots in it rather than holes, simply because it'll allow the seasonal movement of the plywood in relation to the rest of the benchwork. You don't want the wood fighting each other. They're different types of wood, different densities. They're going to move differently, so you want to allow a little bit of slippage there. So all you want to do is you got to make a mark probably about a 1/4 inch above the top hole with a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, and using the included screws, put that through the block and screw that in. It'll go right in. It's a nice sharp screw. It's a self-drilling screw, and it's what's called a truss head screw. It has a washer built into the top of it, and you just want to position it so that the clip is even with the top of the leg. And you got to put one of those on the inside corner of each leg, and that'll give you 8 attachment points for your sheet of plywood. And that's it. The benchwork is completely assembled. Now we'll step back and we'll take a look at our completed project. And that's it. A complete 4x8 benchwork assembled, ready to go, ready to get your plywood on there and run your trains in less time than it would take you to go to your local lumber yard and find 2 straight boards. I would like to take a couple of minutes and talk about the measurement system we use at Mianne. All of our measurements are based on center to center. And what that means is that, for instance, on this 4x8 table, where between the center of this leg and the center of this leg is exactly 48 inches. The center of the end leg to the center of the end leg would be exactly 96 inches or 8 feet. 48 inches in this direction. There's our 4x8. But the actual overall measurement will be 1 3/4 inches longer, the thickness of one leg, because you've got 1/2 of a leg and 1/2 of a leg on each end. So no matter what the size of the benchwork, whether it's 8 feet, 20 feet, 10.5 feet, it's always going to be that extra 1 3/4 inches. It's good to keep that in mind when you're measuring in your room. Another point when you're measuring in a room and you're going to call us or email us, make sure you measure between the baseboards, not the walls. You want your narrowest measurement so we can make sure that it's going to fit. And when you, speaking of fit, we work in 6-inch increments, not 2x2 as you might imagine, because that's what this 4x8 grid is. We work in 6-inch increments, which means if you measured, for example, 12 feet between your baseboards, then you would want to go to 11.5 feet, which would come out to 11.5 feet plus the 1 3/4. That extra bit gives you enough room to assemble, put the thing together, get it centered in the room where you want, and then you can just overhang your plywood top back beyond that. Gives you a little bit extra real estate for your layout. And that's usually good enough. You don't want to try and be too exact. It just makes it too difficult and it becomes difficult to assemble. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please press click the like button. If you know someone else who might enjoy it, click the share button. And don't forget to visit us at www.miannebenchwork.com. Thanks.